Hello everyone, FPL Raptor here and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. In today's video we have my GW9 transfer plans where I have 2 free transfers and I'm also tempted to use the bench boost chip and we'll discuss when I might use it if I don't use it this week. If you do enjoy today's video, please do smash that like button. If you're new around here, make sure to subscribe as well. But without further ado, let's jump into it. So guys, I'm going to start the video by saying something which makes a lot of you laugh, because every time I apologize for there being sound in the background of my videos, people say, Ross, we can't hear it. But I just did a test recording and you can hear the very loud rain in the background. It's raining very heavy where I live. So apologies if you can hear a bit of background noise. For most of you, unless you've got your volume all the way up, you probably won't be able to hear it. And you can see I've got a big smile on my face, not because of my game week, because I'm actually currently on a small red arrow with, of course, one game left to play on Monday evening. But because I'm a Manchester United fan, and it's always wonderful not only to get 3 points, because it doesn't happen that often, but also to beat Liverpool. And it was a very good performance. Sadly, though, I did sell my boy Bruno Fernandes. So you can see no Bruno in my team. And you might be wondering if you weren't tuning into my deadline stream. And by the way, you should watch the deadline streams. Where's Bruno gone? Why have you got Nick Pope? On the deadline stream, someone mentioned a transfer. I can't remember who it was. I think it was someone called Joel. So thank you for mentioning it, because I do like the transfers. But sadly, I'm now 5 points down on it, which was to sell Raya and Bruno to Pope and Saka. The reason I loved the idea of this is there was kind of a few things that put it together for me. I do think Bruno is overpriced and I would much prefer to have Saka in my team, but remember I was already on 3 Arsenal. I've mentioned I wanted to be a bit more patient with Gyökeres, and there weren't tons of other forwards that I desperately wanted to move to going into the Game Week 8 deadline. And I've also mentioned on a few occasions that for me, David Raya has quite a low ceiling. He just doesn't make saves. And in fact, I don't think he might have made one save at the end, but didn't make many saves once again. So I thought, you know what? For me, Raya was the asset that I was happiest losing from Arsenal. I wanted to get Saka. I wasn't that desperate to keep Bruno, and I wanted to give Gyökeres a bit more patience. So yeah, what I did was Raya and Bruno to Pope and Saka. Sadly, I'm already 5 or 6 points down on that. So Bruno's on 8 points, it looks like. I'm recording this directly after the game. Raya gets the clean sheet. Luckily, I got a 7-pointer from Saka despite no attacking return. And of course, Pope did concede. I'm still very happy to have made these transfers. This isn't copium because obviously I'm down on points. But for me, Saka was extremely impressive in that game. And I think he could have definitely come away with something. There were a few occasions where he got into some great positions. I would still much rather, moving forward, owning Saka rather than Bruno. And I still think that Nick Pope has the highest ceiling in comparison to Raya. In this game, he made 3 or 4 saves. I would rather have a goalkeeper that has clean sheet potential, but also makes saves as well. So I still think Pope and Saka is a better combo than Raya and Bruno. But again, I'm about 5 points down on that, so that's not ideal. It would have been enough for me to get a green arrow. I guess the mistake was keeping Gyökeres. What I should have probably done is what a lot of people recommended, which is sell Gyökeres to someone like Walter Marder, or no one really recommended him before the deadline, but Mateta. That would have been a much better combo. I could have kept Raya, got Saka, lost Gyökeres. That would have just been a better combination overall. But yeah, Arsenal still delivering the points. Saka getting DEFCON and 2 bonus, it looks like, although obviously that could still change until a couple of hours after the Monday night kickoff. But a 7-pointer from no attacking return kind of bailed me out a little bit. But like I say, he was man of the match. I think it was a great performance. And I don't think tons of other people deserved necessarily bonus points in that game more than Bukayo Saka. So very happy to get that. And Gabriel is just monstrous. Over the last 3 games, Gabriel has averaged 13 DEFCONs per 90, which is ridiculous. So not only is he playing for the best defense, not only does he have such goal threat and assist threat even with flick on headers, but he's also getting DEFCON on a regular basis too. So he's brilliant. I think he finished this game on 9 defensive contributions. So it was very nearly, and I suppose it could update, but very nearly a 14-pointer for Gabriel. So I feel like if you don't own that man, you need to get him in your team. Outside of that, it was 1 assist for Semenyo and a yellow card, and then a Haaland brace. My team now, 2 weeks in a row, I think it was the same last week, is Haaland, Semenyo, and Arsenal. Like, that's basically all my team does now. The rest of them just absolutely stink. And I look at this team now, and whilst I think some of these players are still fine, I think Senesi is still a fantastic asset. I've got, obviously, Iliman Ndiaye on my bench, and I'll discuss my bench in a second. Very happy to have him. If Anderson's not injured, he's fine. Rodon at 4 million is okay. Leeds have actually been the 3rd best defence in the league so far this season for expected goals conceded, but there are also loads and loads of issues. On Leeds are the team that let me down this week because I started 2 Leeds assets against Burnley, and you might say, why on earth would you do that? Again, if you look at the XG in the game, Leeds really should have scored, not necessarily Anton Stack, by the way. And also, Burnley didn't create that much in that game. Leeds, third for XGC. They're the third best defence. And I looked at it going in. Burnley have been a rubbish attack. Leeds have defended well. And I think Leeds are a better team than Burnley. So, listen, I got it wrong. If I'd have just started Tarkowski and then Dyer, I would definitely be up on points as well. Tijani Reinders getting subbed in the 59th minute. That is far from ideal. He's one of those players that we're just keeping in our teams and saying, this player's bad and this player needs to be bad. Is Tijani Reinders not an issue himself right now? A one-pointer is not ideal. It just feels like, do you know what? All I need from Manchester City is Erling Haaland. And then the real kicker, like I can say, yes, Stack was disappointing, Rodon was disappointing. João Pedro and Gyökeres are killing me. They're killing me. Look at all of the forwards that hauled. A Mateta hat-trick, a Welbeck brace, a Krupi Jr. brace as well. Walter Marder goes and gets a goal and I think full bonus points. Some of the other forwards are really doing it, and the two of them just absolutely stink. João Pedro's barely taking shots. I guess at least Gyökeres is taking a few shots, but he's not looking like he's going to score anytime soon. That is so much of my budget being eaten up there. But I just look at it, and again, Mateta did very well. Potentially, I could have looked at him. And we did speak about him being quite underrated on the deadline stream. Maybe Walter Mara could have gone there. Maybe Jared Bowen will do well as well. But I feel that's a bit hindsighty. I kind of expected more from the pair of them, but they are letting me down every single week. The big issue this week is that I should have bench boosted. Now, I want to try and not feel too bad about this. I didn't expect a Burnley clean sheet in any well. And again, if you look at the XG, Leeds probably should have scored. I thought Leeds would win the game comfortably, 1 or 2. I thought it would be basically the other way around. So if I thought that, I thought that's basically my best player this week. I don't think we'll keep a clean sheet. Dubravka goes and lands a 9-pointer. And in all fairness, maybe I should have considered even starting Dubravka ahead of Nick Pope after I made the transfer. But given I had double Leeds in my team, I thought, you know what, I'll just back Leeds to have a good game. And then Ndiaye and Tarkowski getting a 4 and a 3. Luckily for me, Anderson went off at half-time in terms of reducing the amount of pain I felt about my bench, because he would have almost definitely picked up a 4-pointer with DEFCON. So what is that? That is 13, 16, 17-point bench boost. That would have been nice. That would have been plenty for what I would have wanted. So, yeah, a bit unfortunate. And I look at future weeks now, I'm just like, there's no way I get that much of a bench boost score, because Dubravka alone has almost given you double digits. So, well done if you bench boosted. I sadly didn't. And overall, I think it was quite a disappointing week for me. But luckily, it looks like it will be probably a small red arrow. Like after the Monday night kickoff, I reckon I'll probably be 3.1, 3.2 million. So that's how the team went. Let's now move ahead to Game Week 9. So guys, looking ahead to Game Week 9. Of course, given that I made those 2 transfers in Game Week 8, that means that going into Game Week 9, I have 2 free transfers and 0 million in the bank. Of course, I would have had 4 free transfers if I hadn't made them, but we've already discussed that. And so I have slightly less flexibility, but still some things that I could definitely do. But also, I think the team looks pretty good. Fantasy Football Hub currently have it rated at 94%, which is my highest game week rating in a while. I've got lots of home fixtures, and I don't think it's out of the question that I do roll the transfer and try and get back to 3 or 4. I'll read out the team, and I'll discuss some of the key things that I need to think about this week. So, in goal, I've got Pope against Fulham at home. On the bench, I've got Dubravka against Wolves away. There's a bit of a discussion, but Newcastle with the better defence. Pope has the home fixture, and I don't think Fulham have been a particularly fantastic attack. So I'll probably play Nick Pope. My 5 defenders are Tarkowski against Spurs, Gabriel against Palace, Senesi against Forest, all at home. And then on the bench at the moment, I've got Rodon against West Ham at home, and then Anderson against Newcastle away. Let's see how West Ham get on Monday evening, because as much as Leeds just conceded a couple of goals to Burnley, again, they are 3rd for XGC this season. I think they're actually a pretty good defence. So there is always the chance that I play Rodon ahead of someone maybe like a Tarkowski. But that's how I have it set up right now. All eyes on that Anderson injury, as I'll discuss in a second. The midfield 5 is Ndiaye against Spurs, who looks good for DEFCON, good for attacking threat. On pens, I like him. I've got Reinders against Aston Villa away. He needs to do a lot more. And it does look like Aston Villa are starting to find their feet. Bukayo Saka against Crystal Palace at home, I'm very happy with. And then Semenyo against Nottingham Forest at home. On the bench, I have Stack against West Ham away. Stack and Reinders are definitely the 2 midfielders I'm looking to probably move on the most. And then the front 3, very underperforming, but 2 of them have great fixtures coming up in João Pedro and Gyökeres. This week, Sunderland at home, Palace at home could potentially be better. But after that, they've both got Burnley coming up. You've got Wolves for João Pedro. You've got Sunderland for Gyökeres. Like, they're a good set of 3 or 4 fixtures coming up for the pair of them. And, of course, Erling Haaland, who a few weeks ago, you might have considered maybe not captaining in an away fixture like this. But who are you captaining ahead of Erling Haaland at the moment? We just see people each week that try and go against him get punished time and time again. So he'll probably have the armband. So there's the team. A few things to talk about, actually. Crystal Palace. Immediately when I looked at this, I was like, double attack against Crystal Palace. Double Arsenal attack there against Crystal Palace. They're a great defensive team. If you actually look at the data, Crystal Palace are the best attack in the Premier League this season for expected goals. They've overtaken Manchester City. They're around mid-table for XGC, around 10th or 11th. So what Crystal Palace are slyly doing, they've transitioned across the last 6 game weeks or so to more of an attack-first team. They're creating like 2 to 3 minimum XG a game. In game week 8, they had 4.5 XG. They are creating chances for fun. And I'm not saying they'll do that against Arsenal, but what I am saying is certainly the way they've set up recently is more attack-first. Now, against Arsenal, they might revert back to their old ways, park the bus a little bit. But I'm not too disheartened having Saka and Gyökeres as opposed to the double up on the defence. And hopefully Crystal Palace can nick a goal. So yeah, Saka and Gyökeres absolutely fine. In terms of the attack players that I would like to sell, unfortunately it's my 2 cheapest midfielders. So I think Ndiaye, Saka and Semenyo are all great. It's Reinders and Stack that I'd like to move on. But unless I'm doing something like Stack to Xhaka or Reinders to Caicedo or something like that, like sideways switches, I can't really get anywhere unless I make a move. Now, I could like downgrade Gyökeres and upgrade one of them. That has crossed my mind. Like Gyökeres down to a Mateta or a Walter and then Stack or Reinders up. Maybe that's the way to throw up money. Like I could do Stack up to Paquetá if I do Gyökeres as a downgrade. I'm just not sure that I want to just use up all of my transfers. Like I got a little bit aggressive last week. Slightly regret it given I'm down on points. I don't know if I want to every week try and get super aggressive with the transfers or if I want to try and time it. And there aren't tons of forwards or even necessarily cheap midfielders that I'm desperate to move to in Game Week 9. The other thing to think about then is the bench boost. And I think that's the major decision that I need to make this week because as much as I could make some actual transfers, it's if I want to play the bench boost and if it's going to require a transfer. So as I said, as of right now, my bench is Dubravka against Wolves away, Rodon and Stack against West Ham at home, and we'll have to see how West Ham get on under Nuno on Monday night, and then Anderson against Newcastle away. So supposedly Anderson went off with a hamstring injury. That makes me initially think he's probably not going to be available for this game. On the basis that he is available, very briefly, because I think that's more unlikely, I probably will bench boost this week, because yes, it's not perfect. Stacks look pretty rubbish. They just conceded 2 goals to Burnley leads. But again, they are 3rd for XGC this season. I think they've been pretty good. And Dubravka, I think, will probably concede. Anderson probably concedes too. You are probably looking at like 12 to 14 points as a good bench boost there. I would just take that and run. I'm so fed up every single week of thinking about the bench boost. So as of right now, if Anderson was fit, I'd bench boost. If Anderson's not fit, I have 2 decisions. Or 2 options. The first option would, of course, be just to not bench boost, delay the bench boost, and play either in Game Week 11, because that's the other week, and I'll discuss that a bit later in the video. It looks pretty decent, or just delay it indefinitely, because around going into Game Week 16, I think it is, we get the 5 free transfers topped up because the player's going to AFCON. If I can get to a point where going into Game Week 16, I don't even have any players that are going to AFCON, or only have maybe like 1 player, I'm essentially going to have 5 free transfers. And as much as I don't want to use those transfers, particularly on the bench boost, I could just wait until around Game Week 16, probably going into Game Week 17. Looks like a good week to play it, and play it around there. It might also be that in like Game Week 13, 14, where my team doesn't look great, but could be bench boosted, maybe I just play it there. So yeah, that's option 1, is to delay it. Option 2 would be to sell Anderson and still bench boost. The reason I'm less keen on this is simply because I think Anderson is the best 4.5 million defender. If you look at expected goals conceded this season, I think Fulham have dropped to like 6th now, but going into Game Week 8, they were 5th for XGC. They have been a very good defence, and they are playing more defence first. I spoke about Crystal Palace being more attack first at the moment. I like to see the way that teams set up, and Fulham for me right now are making themselves very difficult to beat. It's kind of what we saw from Nottingham Forest when they were under Nuno as well. So basically, I think Anderson is an exceptionally good option. And over the next 3 games after Palace, they play Wolves at home and Sunderland at home. They're a good set of fixtures. So I'm selling a player that is great for DEFCON, got good fixtures coming up, and playing for a good defence. So unless Anderson is ruled out really long term, let's say like 4 to 6 weeks or something like that, maybe even longer than that, I don't know that I desperately want to sell him because he's a player that I would like in my team moving forward. The other issue I have with selling Anderson is at the moment I have 0 in the bank. Let's say that's the only move I want to make. The one player that I can think of that would be worth moving to that is arguably equally as good as Anderson at that price or lower is probably Richards. You could say like a Mukiele or someone like that, but they have Chelsea this week, not much better. It's Richards who has Arsenal. So I would be using a transfer to sell an asset I really like to move to Richards, who is good, but has Arsenal, and then bench boosting a player against Arsenal, which doesn't feel great given I have double Arsenal attack. I mean, will Richards get DEFCON? Yes. Do I still have the rest of the bench boost, which looks good? Yes. So maybe it's a move I do make, but that's the slight concern. I could, of course, sell Anderson to a player that isn't Richards, that has a good fixture for 9. But then what I'm basically doing is wasting a free transfer, selling a player I like, and buying a player I probably don't like that much just because they have an okay fixture in Game Week 9, which feels silly because, again, the bench boost for me just isn't massively worth it. So that's a long, rambly section to say. The plan has always been to bench boost this week, and I would like to bench boost. So if there's a chance Anderson's fit, I might go for it. But of course, if there are any major doubts, then I probably won't. In terms of other places to use the transfers then, I spoke about Reinders and Stack. If not Reinders and Stack, or as well as, of course, Gyökeres being downgraded, it frees up the money. So that's one other position. João Pedro, I think I'm going to continue to be patient with. It seems silly because he's literally not even shooting. And even when Chelsea score goals, he doesn't seem to be involved. But I just don't think ahead of Sunderland, Spurs, who didn't look particularly good today against Villa, Wolves and Burnley, that's 4 fixtures where I'm just like, I could just see João Pedro and Chelsea scoring goals. So I think I'm going to be patient there. And then it's probably Tarkowski. Now, I don't want to sell Tarkowski. He's great for DEFCON. Everton are a decent enough defence. The fixtures are actually pretty okay, but he is quite expensive. And there are other good expensive players that I really like, as we'll discuss in a second, around the same price. Or again, if I need to free up $1 million, I could downgrade Tarkowski. Like, I could make a double move potentially to downgrade Tarkowski slightly, I don't know, to someone like Chalobah or someone like a little bit, and that might give me the funds to just upgrade Anderson to a decent option too. So you can pivot the funds around that way. So yeah, to recap, the players in the team that could be sold: Tarkowski maybe, but only if I need funds. Reinders and Stack if I can upgrade them to someone. Gyökeres if I need the funds. And then maybe Anderson as well, only if I want to bench boost or if the injury is long term. So hopefully that makes sense in terms of the team for Game Week 9. Let's take a look at my watch list and then look at the future opportunities for a bench boost as well. So guys, moving on to my watch list, and of course I've discussed some of these players already, but here are the players that I'm currently looking at possibly buying, not only in Game Week 9, but across future weeks as well. So for each position, I've got 4 players plus 5 midfielders. So starting off with the defenders, you can see there are 2 Crystal Palace players on here, and also I've got Ismail Assar and Mateta on the list as well. My concern with Crystal Palace is, like I say, they do play the best team in the league, Arsenal, and I think we're pretty happy to say they are the best team in the league at the moment, going into Game Week 9. So we always talk about entry points in FPL. Is the entry point to go and buy an asset against the best team in the league? Probably not. Away as well. It's about as difficult as a fixture can get. No. So if I am to buy Richards or Munoz, who are still my 2 favourite Palace defenders, no disrespect to Lacroix and Gay, and I know Gay got an assist again for winning the pen, but it would be Richards or Munoz. This isn't the week to do it. So maybe I don't make a defender transfer this week, don't sell Tarkowski, don't bench boost even if Anderson's injured, and I actually look to bring in one of, if not maybe both, Richards and Munoz when the fixtures improve. I will note, I'm not saying the fixtures are exceptional. Like, people keep saying bring in Palace in Game Week 10. It's not like they're going to a crazy fixture run. It's Brentford, Brighton, Wolves, Manchester United. After that, they've then got Burnley, Fulham, but then it's City, Leeds, Spurs, Fulham, Newcastle, Villa. So it's a good fixture run. It's not one that you need to break your team for. And as I said, Palace are slightly transitioning into a more attack-first team that are creating chances and conceding more. So let's see how they look against Arsenal. Maybe they just shore up massively, like I said, and turn into the Palace of old. But those are certainly 2 players at their respective prices that I'm very interested in. The other 2 players are both more premium, which would be Reece James and also Jurrien Timber. Timber, for me, is, along with Gabriel, the best defensive asset to own in the game at the moment. Obviously, I'm already on triple Arsenal, and I really would be surprised if I sell Gyökeres in the next 4 game weeks. And I know what people will say. He's been terrible. He's not worth the money. Agree on both fronts, but that doesn't mean that you should sell him. It doesn't mean that he won't score goals in these fixtures. So I think I'll have patience with Gyökeres, despite other people maybe not having that patience. But if I do sell him, I, of course, free up a 3rd Arsenal slot, and maybe something like Tarkowski to Timber could be worth the extra transfer. So I'm not ruling out the possibility, and I've just done a switch from Raya to Saka. I'm also not ruling out the possibility of doing a switch from Gyökeres to Timber, because I do think, and I said this going into the Game Week 8 deadline, so it's not a knee-jerk, for me the 3 best Arsenal assets are Timber, Gabriel, and Saka. So yeah, I've got my eye in Timber. On Reece James, he's been brilliant in the last 4. So over the last 4 weeks, he's played 90 minutes in every game week. That's the main thing, firstly, by the way. Reece James playing not only 90 minutes, but 4 consecutive 90 minutes. Of course, Europe does pull into question whether that will continue. But also, he's got the clean sheet last week against Nottingham Forest, but he's got 3 assists and a goal in the last 4 weeks too. 4 attacking returns in 4 weeks and 4 consecutive 90s for a player that has ridiculous end product, the delivery from Reece James, and the ability to score goals as well. We've seen that in previous seasons. You'll have to remind me what the season was when Reece James was just exceptional. I would say arguably the best right back in world football for that spell when he was fit. So if he can get back to anything close to that, I like him a lot. And the data's also been pretty good as well in those games. 0.16, 0.35, 0.24. So I'm not probably going to move for him this week. Although if I was moving for a defender, I can't get to Timber in one move. Richards and Munoz have Arsenal. Maybe something like Tarkowski to James. It's just a single move for a bit of fun. That would be a spicy transfer. So yeah, it's very knee-jerk. And by the way, when I look at this watch list, it's not normally this knee-jerk of just putting in players that have basically returned in the previous game week. But an 18-pointer and a fully fit Reece James, it does have to turn your head. So those are the defenders that I'm looking at right now. In terms of midfielders, on my list, I've got Xhaka, Paquetá, who I'm yet to see on Monday night, Sarr and Enzo at that mid-price, and I've also got Cody Gakpo. I made this graphic before Gakpo scored. He hit the woodwork 3 times in that game as well. Cody Gakpo does look like the best Liverpool attacker to buy. Ekitike looks like the best Liverpool attacker, but as of right now, he's just not getting in the 11. And I did have Isak on this graphic, and I've removed him. I've just not been impressed. And Ekitike looks so good every time he's on the pitch, and Gakpo looks really good. I just think surely Ekitike will start some games ahead of Isak. And I don't think it will be instead of Gakpo on the left, because I just think they look better with Gakpo out there. So it looks like at the moment, and Florian Wirtz keeps getting benched, Salah was subbed off in the 85th minute when Liverpool were losing 2-1. It's got to be Cody Gakpo if you want a Liverpool attacker. Now, maybe you don't want one at the moment, but he's got to be on my watch list for that reason. The 2 players I do really want are Sarr and Enzo Fernandez. Obviously, on Enzo Fernandez, he wasn't in the squad for Game Week 8, which I was slightly surprised at. I thought it was a bit of mind games from Maresca, but Caicedo benched, Enzo wasn't in the squad. Maybe he was being honest about the training. Obviously, if there are any doubts about his fitness going into Game Week 9, then I won't go there. They've, of course, got the midweek game. It's against Ajax, potentially someone like that. So we might see midweek if he's fit and available. Any doubts, any risk, I won't go for him. And the other issue is I now don't really have a route to him, because my route to Enzo would be to downgrade Bruno and upgrade Stack. But because I've moved Bruno to Saka now, I don't have that direct route to go and get Enzo. So what I would have to do instead is sell Njai, who I don't really want to do, or get to 3 free transfers and pivot the funds up from Saka, up from Stack, down from Tarkowski, and then free up some money elsewhere. So there is still the possibility to do it, don't get me wrong, or like downgrading Gyökeres, but it's become a bit more tricky. And on Ismaila Sarr, as I kind of said with Munoz and Richards, I just don't think this is the week to buy him. Now, Sarr did score last year against Arsenal. In fact, it might have been against Arsenal away I think it was in the game where they got battered like 4 or 5-1, but Sarr did grab a goal, and he could score in a game like this, but again, it's just not the entry point. Paquetá I like at that sort of slightly cheaper but not fully budget price. And again, on penalties, DEFCON, I think there's a good chance, I might look like an idiot because I've not seen the Monday night game, I think there's a chance he starts in the false 9 on Monday. And we saw in the 1 or 2 games where he started in the false 9 this season, he gets into some good positions. So you could definitely do worse than him. We said he's like a little mini Bruno, essentially. And on pens, set pieces, and DEFCON potential, he kind of is. So yeah, I've got my eye on him, and the fixtures over the next 4 look good too. And if I just wanted to make a direct switch from Anton Stack, let's say that I thought he was that bad, or there were rumours that Tanaka was going to start instead of him, Stack to Xhaka looks good. Like, Xhaka is just so good for DEFCON this season, and he takes set pieces as well. So there we go. Those are the midfielders. So finishing off with the forwards then, this is knee-jerk central. I've got Krupi Jr., Welbeck, Walter Mada, and Mateta. The truth is that there aren't many forwards outside of Mateta and Walter Mada that I wanted. and not knee-jerk. You guys know, especially for those that have watched my channel for a while. By the way, if you've watched my channel for a while, thank you. If you're new, please subscribe. If you've watched my channel for a while, Mateta is my favourite player in the Premier League outside of Man United assets. He has been for a while. I was desperate for Man United to sign him in the summer. From an FPL perspective and a football perspective, I love his personality. Like, I'm just a huge fan of Mateta. So it kills me to see him get a hat-trick and to not own him, but it does make me want to bring him in. I would not be surprised if after Arsenal's better fixtures, and if Gyökeres continues to disappoint, if I make a move like Gyökeres to Mateta, do I want to make the move this week? I kind of do. Like, I just kind of think, even with the difficult fixtures, I think Mateta is better than Gyökeres. He's definitely on penalties. He's always getting good minutes. The man had 3.48 XG in that game, which is the highest ever XG recorded in a Premier League game by a single player. That's how many chances he's getting. He's had 15 big chances this season. Haaland's had 17. The next, I think, is Semenyo with like 7. So Mateta has had over double the big chances of the player in third place in the Prem. So I'm not saying he's putting up Haaland level numbers, and he's not as good of a finisher as Haaland, but he is putting up silly numbers. And like I say, Palace are playing in such a way now where they are going to continue to create. So he's the one I want. And he probably was the one I wanted even before this hat-trick. Walter Marder, though, looks really impressive. And if you've not seen his goal, I urge you to go and watch the Walter Marder goal. It was a cheeky little back heel. And his minutes look good. Even with Wissa coming back, Walter Marder, I think he's got back-to-back 90 minutes, if I'm not wrong. So he's another player, even now he's up to 7.3 million, that I would quite like in my team. Danny Welbeck, I think, has played as well, back-to-back 90s. Let me check Walter Marder first, because I don't want to completely lie to you on video. So Walter Marder has played, back-to-back 90s. And I think Welbeck has as well, because the reason I said a few weeks ago I'm not interested in Welbeck is he's not been stringing the minutes together. So back-to-back starts, 90 and 89 minutes. And he's put up really good data in 2 of the last 3 games. So at 6.3 million, fixtures for Brighton aren't bad. Manchester United, Leeds, Crystal Palace, Brentford, Forest. Not a bad set of fixtures. So I've got my eye on him. It's just like, does he play every minute at his age? And will he continue to start every single game? Krupi's on there as a bit of fun. I don't expect Krupi to start once Evan Nielsen's back. But there are some cheaper forwards, like Mark Guiu got 45 minutes for Chelsea. And by the way, when he came on, looked quite good. He missed a big chance as well. So Guiu's an option. Krupi starting and getting a brace. Marshall may well start on Monday night for Arsenal if Paquetá doesn't start in the false 9. You've got some cheap assets that could become options if we want to move to sort of a formation or price point structure in the team where we've got a cheap sort of £4.5 million-ish forward. So there we go. A long 10-minute ramble on my current watch list. Players that I really do want to get in. One of Munoz or James for a bit of spice, because I've just got DEFCON guys. I'm a bit bored of DEFCON already. They just mop up the DEFCON every week. But I quite like a James or Munoz, who, by the way, can get DEFCON, but also have that attacking threat. In midfield, for me, it's probably Sarr and Enzo. And then the forward line, I think Mateta and Walter Marder, but specifically Jean-Philippe Mateta. Those are the players that I can see myself bringing in the next few weeks. In the final section, we're going to take a brief look at bench boost and whether it's worth potentially delaying it if Anderson is out. So guys, I've just jumped over to Fantasy Football Hub to do a little bit of planning ahead and just have a look at that bench boost chip. And if I don't play it this week, when are the future opportunities? I'll try and keep this one quick because we've spoken a lot about the bench boost and it's a pretty rubbish chip anyway. If you do want to check out Fantasy Football Hub, there will be a link down below. Apparently the 50% off ended going into Gameweek 9, but I've just checked it and it's still there at the moment. So apologies if it's not by the time you click the link. Definitely check though. And there'll be a link down below. So Gameweek 9, we've already spoken about. If I can bench boost, I will. If Anderson's fit, then I play it. If it was just like, I don't know, tightness or something and he's available. If not, Gameweek 11 is the next best chance, where at the moment it would look something like Dubravka against West Ham, Rodon and Stack against Forest away, and Senesi against Villa away. Yes, they're all away from home, but I think that looks like the next best opportunity. If I sell Stack, by the way, it might end up that it's actually Reinders against Liverpool at home on my bench, or potentially by that point I've sold the pair of them. But that is definitely the point right now, which looks most likely after 9. Unfortunately, whilst 12 isn't bad, it's post-international break, and I'm less keen. Dubravka's got Chelsea. So I think after that, 13, 14, 15 are bad. Like you can see in 15 that the bench boost looks rubbish. Dubravka against Newcastle, Rodon against Liverpool. It's just not lining up. But 16 and 17 aren't awful. So in 16, Dubravka's got Fulham at home, Rodon's got Brentford away. I quite like that. And then in 17, and remember, this is the time when we get the 5 free transfers around Game Week 16, I think it is. I should know exactly. I think Game Week 16, we get the 5. Game week 17, Dubravka's got Bournemouth away. Rodon's got Crystal Palace at home. The rest of my team doesn't look that bad. Of course, at this point, it might have changed drastically anyway. The reason I'm looking at Dubravka and Rodon is these are the two I'm least likely to sell. I might sell Stack. I might sell Tarkovsky or Reinders. But Rodon and Dubravka are the two sort of players that, because they're so cheap, I shouldn't really be using transfers on. So yeah, it probably doesn't matter. It's a bad chip anyway. You just need to get lucky. I think moving forward, the mistake that I made this season was just waiting for the perfect week and not getting it done early. There have been plenty of opportunities each week. In fact, if I go over to Fantasy, the FPL site, I don't know how well you're going to be able to say this, but I'll be able to see there have been multiple weeks. So points benched. Yeah, man. I didn't realize it was that bad. You can see it's this column here, just on the outside. 17 this week. 8, 13, 17, 7, 14, 10, 9. My worst weeks have been 7, 8, and 9, and then every other week I've had double digits on my bench. I should have just got rid of the bench boost on multiple other occasions. So that's the big mistake. Stop waiting for a perfect week, just get it done. I'm sure the week that I now end up playing it will be the week where I get like 5 or 6. So yes, anyway, the point being, if I don't play it in 9, probably 11. If I don't play it in 11, I think I'll wait until 16 or 17, and we'll just have to see what the injury updates we get this week are. Let me know if you've still got the bench boost, which week are you planning to play in? So guys, there we have it. That is my Game Week 9 transfer plans. Hopefully that has been helpful for you, and if it has, please do smash that like button and make sure to subscribe as well. Until next time, which will be the FPL Roundup tomorrow, thank you very much. Bye-bye.